All right, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another TT video. By the title of this video, you can tell today that we are going to continue chasing a little bit of horsepower by doing a very important maintenance bit for our TTS today, and that is we are going to be doing the walnut blasting carbon cleaning that pretty much every single direct injection car, especially Volkswagens and even BMWs, are plagued with. And that's the fact that the PCV system reroutes the positive crankcase ventilation fumes back into your intake, and the carbon builds up on the valves because you don't have gasoline spraying over your intake valves as your combustion cycle occurs with other vehicles that have port injection. Now, they got rid of this issue with newer models such as the RS3 and the TTRS that actually have 10 injectors total for their 5-cylinder, so one port, one direct injected. And some of the Golf Rs in the United Kingdom also do have multi-port fuel injection, which gets rid of this issue. We're gonna start by doing this, and then we are gonna talk about later on in the video about some things you can do to prevent this in the future, and we will go over that. So without babbling on too much longer, as I tend to do in a lot of my other videos, I'm gonna show you guys how cheap it is to do this yourself. Obviously this is a little bit more of a mechanically inclined maintenance item to do, as we are going to be accessing the meat and potatoes mechanicals of our EA113 that we have in the Mark II TTS here. But it is fairly simple, a little bit time consuming. I'm going to show you all of the parts, all of the tools, and everything that you're going to need to be able to do this if you want to do this the walnut blasting way. Now, that being said, I'm not going to sit here and do the soaking and scraping method and everything that I've done in the past on my 8P A3 that I had a 2-liter EA888 Gen 1 in. We're going to be doing this the dealer efficient way, and we're going to be doing it with walnut blasting. So I will show you guys the setup that we're going to be using for that, and I will put links to all of the parts, all of the tools, and everything that I'm going to be using in this job in the description if you want to go pick it up. If you do buy any of the parts through ECS with the links in the description, that helps the channel out directly and allows me to do more videos like this and more upgrades to the cars. So thank you for all of you that buy anything through ECS. But here are the things you're going to need to do your carbon cleaning. Okay, so first we're going to start with going over the parts that you need in order to do this, as far as stuff that's going to come off the engine. Now, lucky for us, this maintenance or this service or whatever you want to call it doesn't quite require anything too fancy. And if you wanted to skip doing a reseal on your injectors, that's completely up to you. I do like almost 100% recommend doing it, so I'll go over that in a second. But the main thing that you're going to need is you're going to need an intake manifold gasket, because in order to get access to the intake valves on your 2-liter or 3-liter or 4.2 or whatever, your intake manifold or your supercharger, depending on what model you have, is going to need to have the intake manifold removed. Now, whenever you remove a gasket, you don't necessarily want to reuse it unless it's made out of certain materials like metal or something like that. The rubber one, because this car is from, it's a 2014, but it's a 2013 production year, because we all know how that works. That gasket has not come off the car in 10 years. So we've got a new one here. I've bought two because I just am probably going to end up doing this in the future. And I bought a whole bunch of different variants of the injector seals, like from all these different companies. And I'm going to show you kind of what the different ones are. And then I'll explain what each one is for when we take the injectors off. You have obviously all your 2-liter models. The EA113, the Mark 6R TTS, and the Mark 5 GTI injector is slightly different in terms of the seals that they use. So some of these are different, and I'll show you guys when we pull the injectors out. But for parts, that's pretty much it that you need to do the carbon cleaning, is just that stuff. Now, as far as tools, most mechanics, and I say most, have an air compressor. Mine isn't anything fancy. That's a 5-gallon air compressor. It's worked pretty good for me for many years, and I've tested everything to make sure it works. So number one, you need an air compressor for your walnut blaster. 2, you need some form of a walnut blaster. I know that you can get the tank style, which I'll put a photo on the screen of now, but you can pick up one of these guys from Harbor Freight or Princess Auto or wherever you are. Harbor Freight in the States, Princess Auto in Canada. And this is basically just a gravity feed abrasive blaster. And so you load your walnuts in here, it feeds through the tube, you hook up your air compressor to here, and then you spray it, if I can get it off, you spray it into your cylinder. So you need that. I'll have a link to that in the description as well. And then you need one of these guys. Now, you can buy these from ECS or on Amazon or wherever. Now, I had these 3D printed for me myself, and these things, I don't know why companies are charging so much for these, because the material to make this, I think, worked out to be like $3, $4 or something like that, because this is one of the ones where it like pulls it out of the resin instead of like building it on top. So it's a very, very accurate, very clean piece. Companies charge $50 for this thing. If you have a friend that has a 3D printer, I will put a link to the exact 3D printing model that I use to have these made for me to do the carbon cleaning. And this is so you can put the tip in this side and then hook up a vacuum to that side. So you need these as well. I made two. Just because I had to modify one. Next, if you are doing your injector reseal, you will need an injector resealing kit specifically to put the Teflon seals on the tip of the injector, and I will show you guys how to do that later on. It comes with a whole bunch of different sizes, so this is relatively universal to direct injected injectors, and then it's also got an injector puller as well for some of those injectors that are going to be stuck in your cylinder head. I haven't had too much trouble getting them out when I've done direct injected cars before, and I think I've only ever used a puller like the slide hammer style one time. So you should be okay. And then last but not least, you're gonna need your blasting media. There's a 55 or 50 pound bag of walnut shells. You need 18 to 40 grit walnut shells. You can buy them on Amazon. I bought mine from Princess Auto for about 44 bucks. The blaster itself, I actually also only paid 50 bucks for because it was on sale for 50% off. So those go on sale. So I believe the total setup for the walnuts, the blaster, the injector seal / puller tool, one service kit, and I bought a different set of injector tips and to have this made was just shy of about $200 with everything delivered to my house if I didn't have to go pick it up. This service, I know at dealers can sometimes run upwards of $1,000. I actually got quoted 1,500 bucks to get this done from Audi. So I've done this before when I was an apprentice as a mechanic at Volkswagen. So I'm going to take another crack at it. It's been a little bit since I've done it, but it is fairly simple as long as you do things properly and don't mess anything up. And yeah, some smaller independent shops I know charge 700 to 800 bucks to do it. So I'll show you guys how to do it. It's a couple hours of your time, but it is fairly simple. So put you guys on the tripod, we'll set you up and we'll start taking the intake manifold off and we'll get this thing ready for carbon cleaning. Okay, to start off, to make life really, really simple, we're gonna just go ahead and unplug all of the connectors and stuff that we're going to need to disconnect first. So you're gonna disconnect your throttle body right here at the front that connects to the intake manifold. We're gonna do that one. There's another one directly below that, which is below the diverter valve recirculation hose. If you do have a Golf R or a TTS, I know it'll be slightly different on the GTI. Take that one off. And then we're gonna go ahead and disconnect our diverter valve itself. Mine is a little bit different because I have a GFB DV Plus. Link in the description to my other video if you want to check that out. We're going to disconnect the fuel pressure regulator on the side, or sorry, the fuel pressure sensor on the side of the high pressure fuel pump here. If I can, we're going to disconnect the regulator on the top. And then we are going to start by removing the coolant hoses that are on this side here. So we're gonna undo the little strap that holds the top one in, and that's actually loose, which is impressive because I'm assuming that's probably been out. And we're going to remove the 10 millimeter that's here. All this stuff out of the way, so this will undo the charge hose if you are a R or TTS. It'll undo both your coolant hoses. Next, we're gonna undo the 10 mil that holds the dipstick in. Get this guy out, loosen that, and then just undo it by your fingers. PCV valve, which is over on this side, you just kind of squeeze it and work it off. Be very, very careful when you do that. They're very easy to break. Next, we're also going to remove our hard lines off the top of the intake manifold here. So we're going to need, I think it's a T25 or T30. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll take the PCV completely off as well, which is a T25. I'm gonna move you over to the other side because now we gotta undo the fuel lines off the high pressure fuel pump. Grab the 17. Make sure you put some rags and stuff up under here so that we catch as much fuel as we can once we get it all the way off. Fluid off there. I also removed this vacuum line off the vacuum pump just so this one's loose and out of the way. just need to undo this.
Pin? You want me to pull those? Ah, nice.
Yeah, there's a main in there. Hold on. No, because we gotta undo. There's a main plug.
Oh, okay. And then that one. Do you want to disconnect this right here? Are you gonna disconnect that?
Yeah, disconnect that.
Here, I'll hold it. I'll hold it.
Yay!
Yay!
Intake manifold off.
That took a while.
Yeah, I mean probably an hour to get it off at this point. And now we will have a look at the carbon.
Oh, but there is quite a bit.
Go turn your thing for there. Actually, here, let me take the runners out.
Oh, you can see that, yeah. Right on the valve right there. It looks like a Shell commercial.
Yeah, it's not horrible, but it's not ideal.
It's due.
Like, I don't think this has ever been done, but yeah, we're just gonna do it anyways because we're already here.
Do you have your key?
Yeah, it should be there.
In the car.
You have to put your foot on the brakes. You have to get in the driver's seat.
I can't pop it open.
What?
You don't have the open thing?
No.
What do you think?
Oh shit!
Oh!
Fuel pump relay. I forgot about that.
Oh, because I opened the door?
Yeah. No.
No, go in or not?
It's too late now, but just come over here for a sec.
Okay, what do I do? You need a plug. You have a plug? You have a bump?
Yeah, but I also need to unplug the fuel pump relay.
Okay, and then you're gonna shove something in there?
Yeah. Well, I should just pull the fucking fuse.
Oh, it's...
Okay, so that was interesting. So now we can rotate the crank. Okay, so... Okay, do you have your phone light? I need you to come here for a second.
Negative.
Oh, it's stinky. It's gonna give me a head rush. Here, come here. So just shine your light down in cylinder 1. I think it is already all the way closed.
I think that one's closed.
That's all we need to do is we just need to make sure one's closed at a time.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now we're gonna masking tape off the rest of the fucking cylinders. And our injector holes.
Oh, that's so hard to drink.
Okay, I'm gonna get the vacuum over. I'm just gonna move you guys back for this part because this is like pretty straightforward. Okay, so this is a dirty side. I don't know if you guys will be able to see. That's a dirty side, and then that's a clean side, right there. I'll put photos and stuff because like the camera isn't really able to see it because it's so dark in there that to me on camera it just looks like it's black.
Use this.
And then in there it's clean. Yeah, that's really not doing much.
2 very boring minutes later.
All right, so valves are essentially done. Can I zoom in for you guys here? There we go. All cleaned out. Hey, how bad the lighting is in my garage, but they're pretty clean, pretty mint. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to our injector reseal procedure now too. So I'm just gonna clear off my workspace here and I'll show you guys how we're gonna do that. So this part is relatively straightforward, and if you wanna watch a in-depth on how to do this if I don't explain it well enough, and I'm sorry in advance if I don't. Humble Mechanic does a good video showing how to do the reseal, and I'll put a link to that obviously in the description as I do with everything. So one of the things that is lucky for me is that on my lovely intake manifold here, there's a lot of dirt falling off this. None of my injectors got stuck in the cylinder head, which is pretty good because then I don't have to do any fighting with all of that shit to get them out. Now, that being said, I could pull the fuel injectors off, reseal them, do all the fun goodie stuff, and I probably will, but the difficult part of doing any of the injector resealing stuff that I'm kind of talking about has to do with the injector tip and the little Teflon seal or nylon or whatever it's made out of on here. So I'm gonna show you guys how to, I'm actually gonna take one injector completely off to make my life a little bit easier, I think. That handy dandy little blue toolkit that is sitting behind the intake manifold, and you guys are lowering for some reason, that is sitting back here, we'll need in a second. But the first thing you're gonna need is a fresh razor. So I've got a brand new one here, and we're just going to very carefully cut the nylon seal off of the injector tip here because these guys are crusty and old. So there's the original nylon seal, if you can see it in my hand. And we're gonna quickly clean the injector tip off as well. We're just gonna use a little bit of WD-40 and a clean shop towel. We just kind of want to get some of the gunk on the sides off. So we're gonna grab our fuel injector kit, as I showed you guys, or the link is in the description, and we're gonna match up the correct tip. This tiny little white Teflon injector seal. So we're gonna put it onto the small end of our little thing here. You have your little seal on there, and then you're gonna need this die thing. You're gonna want the rough end onto the small bit here, and we're just gonna line it up on the injector like this, and then we're just gonna go ahead and Alright, so I don't know if you can really see from there, but we've got all the injectors resealed and back in the intake manifold. So we're going to put it all back together now, and I'm going to kind of just put the camera away for the first little bit because I know this is going to be a pain in the ass and I don't want to be swearing on camera constantly. So I will see you guys in maybe 20-ish minutes once we have a decent portion of it all back together and kind of cleaned up. So I'll see you guys soon. So one thing I forgot to talk about in regards to putting the intake manifold back onto the cylinder head, I mentioned that all of the injectors came out on the fuel rail and didn't actually stay in the cylinder head. Now, when you reinstall the intake manifold, it actually is quite a bit easier to go ahead and install the intake manifold with the injectors in the cylinder head instead of the fuel rail. So pull your injectors out and put them into the cylinder head, and don't have them in the fuel rail when you're putting the intake manifold on, or else you're just going to be slamming the injector tips into the cylinder head when you're trying to make it all fit.
One eternity later.
Alright, so we're all wrapped finally on doing this. Everything's kind of back together. A couple things that were a little bit of a pain in the ass to finish up there, but I had to drain the oil as well and just put a new drain plug on the car because that was leaking, and I'm gonna test it now and make sure everything works with no leaks and whatnot. So is that? The headlight's like tweaking out. That don't sound right. Okay, so I cleared the fault. It just had a random misfire, which is sometimes happens after you do carbon cleaning. So we're just gonna start it again and make sure she idles and let her warm up and relearn some stuff. And there you go. Listen to that kitty purr. Alright, so I kind of wanted to wrap this video up a few days after doing the carbon cleaning on the TTS, because I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight on how the car reacts to having it done, because a lot of people don't really talk about actual differences versus like what is to be expected. Now, I've done this quite a few times in the past with vehicles I've owned, and like I said in the beginning of the video, as an apprentice when I worked for Volkswagen back in the day. And being as this is my first high performance oriented Audi that I've actually owned that from the factory is supposed to be high performance, I did notice pretty much right away that the car, the fuel economy has gotten quite a bit better, albeit I am being a little bit nicer to the car than I typically would be, because you know me from all my other videos of doing drag testing and generally just doing performance upgrades and that kind of thing. That's not usually my MO, but I have been doing quite a bit of driving in the last week since I've already done this, and I think my current fuel economy has been pretty pretty damn good. I'm just under half a tank right now, and I've done 345 kilometers. And I run Shell 93. I'm stage 2 plus Unitronic. And I've got a whole bunch of goodies under the car, catless, stock exhaust, intake, that kind of thing. But usually if I try, I will get about 510 to 520 kilometers, and I'm on track right now to do probably a little bit closer to 600, which is pretty damn good for a gas burning, relatively higher performance Volkswagen, especially with Shell 93, which has a blend of ethanol in it, for those of you guys that know anything about our fuel up in Canada. Now this video is already probably about 20 minutes long, so I'm not gonna go out and do my draggy testing as I normally would for any type of performance upgrade that I typically would do on the car, because I actually am due for servicing as well. I do need to change the oil in the car, so I don't want to risk if any carbon or anything has gotten into the oil. I'm just going to do the oil change, then we'll do another video covering what the actual numerical gains are from doing a carbon cleaning and that kind of thing. But one thing I do want to touch on before we end this video is I did mention things that you can do in the future to prevent carbon buildup on your high performance Audi or Volkswagen. Two really important things that you can do that will 100% lower, if not completely get rid of carbon buildup. Number one, and this is a really common one for those of you that live in hotter climates or that have really hot summers that have high performance vehicles, and that would be water methanol injection. Lots of companies do support tuning. This is something that is going to be a little bit custom, so before you go out and you buy a water methanol injection kit off ECS or wherever, get in touch with your tuner, make sure they can do it. Number two, and this will be for you Golf R guys, especially Mark 7s, Mark 7.5, multi-port fuel injection is really popular, is getting a lot more support from tuning companies. That not only increases your fueling potential, so you're able to run bigger turbos, more boost if your engine can handle it, but it does also set up through the port system, so you are running fuel over the top of your valves. Now I know there are going to be comments about, oh, like, why don't you just run a catch can and all this, and I've made tons of videos and talked about catch cans and stuff in the past before. No company has really ever developed a catch can that is so good that it will 100% remove the necessity for you to do carbon cleaning in the future. But there are some companies who make really well-designed catch cans that will help reduce it, but ultimately you're still going to need to do carbon cleaning. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this video has already gotten super long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions for me, don't forget to leave a comment down in the video. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to check out more of the TT videos that I will be uploading in the future. I'm also looking at a new vehicle right now, so stay tuned for a potential new purchase in the next little bit here. And all of your parts and everything are going to be in the description of this video. And thank you again to those of you that use the ECS links to pick up anything that you see in any of my videos. It really does help me out a lot. But peace out, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in the next video.